Hi, everybody. So today is a special day for me. It's a quiet and contemplative day at home. It's been raining for most of the day today, and it's the first rain in a long time here in a relatively hot and dry summer. So I felt really moved today to share with you, kind of in the space of this day, the quiet, slow, maybe even watery space of this day. I felt really moved to share with you about another section in my second book, From the Back of a Thirsty Camel. I've shared a few sections with you already, in this video series where I'm kind of going through and characterizing the sections of the book. There are 6 sections, and I've been kind of exploring those with you and sharing my thoughts about each one of them. Today's section is a very special section, but that brings up for me the fact that all of them have really taken on a life of their own. The book itself is, I feel moved to say to you, the book itself is definitely a cohesive whole. It tells this tale of my journey into the world of ecstatic poetry, and it kind of details the various facets of ecstatic poetry for me, or from my perspective. But each of these 6 sections really kind of has become for me like its own like avatar or its own icon or its own mantra in along my journey as a poet. And so this one is no different. This section I'd like to talk to you about today is called "The Time Has Come to Speak of Love." And boy, does it ever have its own story in my life, and also on my journey as a writer. To introduce this section, though, I feel compelled, kind of for the first time, I'd like to share some writing with you that isn't mine. I'd like to share a poem by Hafiz. This is one of his more well-known poems, I think. It's often goes by the title, "Tired of Speaking Sweetly." And the poem goes like this. Love wants to reach out and manhandle us. Break all our teacup talk of God. If you had the courage and could give the beloved his choice, some nights he would just drag you around the room by your hair, ripping from your grip all those toys in the world that bring you no joy. Love sometimes gets tired of speaking sweetly and wants to rip to shreds all your erroneous notions of truth that make you fight within yourself, dear one, and with others, causing the world to weep on too many fine days. God wants to manhandle us, lock us inside of a tiny room with himself, and practice his drop kick. The beloved sometimes wants to do us a great favor, hold us upside down and shake all the nonsense out. But when we hear that he is in such a playful, drunken mood, most everyone I know quickly packs their bags and hightails it out of town. So those are the words of Hafiz about this concept of love, this higher concept of love, right? Love related to God, maybe love related to our karma and what we're supposed to be learning, at this time in our lives about love or on our journey of love. So I've been on a journey of love too. And, if any of you who are watching this video has followed my work or read some of the work that I was writing, a few years ago, it would be very fair to say that those words were very sugary, maybe a little bit naive. I think it's fair to say that we all have an evolving path towards love, or into the wilderness of love, or through the path of love, right? I'm no different, you're no different. But I can tell you that this work, this section, "The Time Has Come to Speak of Love" in Thirsty Camel, for me absolutely represents a step forward. Hafiz says, love sometimes gets tired of speaking sweetly and wants to rip to shreds all your erroneous notions of truth. What I would like to share with you is, I personally have had some very erroneous notions of love in my life, of what love is, of how to love romantically, but not just romantically, as a friend or as a companion or even as a son. And I think along our journeys, at least this is true for me, I think along our journeys, we're given these opportunities to have those old, kind of worn out notions of love ripped to shreds. Hafiz says it's God who rips these notions to shreds. I might say for myself, it's karma. It's just the lesson that keeps coming back until we learn it. So this section, the time has come to speak of love, for me, is an expression of these lessons. I'm tired of speaking sweetly about love. Frankly, I'm sick and tired of speaking sweetly about love. I've done that. I've had that time. I think balance is important. Love is profoundly sweet. Some of the poems in this section are sweet, loving, tender love poems. Some of them, though, propose something different. And that's what I'd like to share with you today. I'd like to share with you two poems. One of them is a bit longer. It's a poem in two parts. But both of these poems are something new about love. Both of these poems are expressing my journey, my personal evolutionary journey deeper into an understanding of love. I expect the words will speak for themselves, but just a little bit of background on this first poem. It's called A New World Love. And you guys, I want to tell you, I started to write A New World Love at least a couple years ago, maybe 3 years ago. The idea made so much sense to me. Oh, there's a new world love. There's a way that we can love one another that can transcend the boundaries of our conditioning, basically, is the idea of this. We've been conditioned to love a certain way, because I knew I had. But there's a way, somehow, to transcend that and love in a new way. I had this idea, and I started to write about it. And it tormented me for years, because I wasn't in a place in my life yet where I could finish the poem, where I had kind of personally overcome some demons, some conditioning, some really nasty stuff, actually. So I wrote the first part of this poem. Again, it's a poem in two parts, like 3 years ago. And after I went through what I would consider to be a personal hell, and we all have them, right? I wrote the second part. So part one is called Causation. Wouldn't it be nice if every child was given all of the keys to all of the doors that hide away their own freedom? But this is no more the way than the baby robin who, newly hatched, stretches her wings and attempts to fly. There is much to be learned before that first flight will take her onward. There is an old way, the way your father's father loved his son with calloused hands. The coal dust and shovel called to him more deeply than did the space between his lover's hips. The way your mother's mother loved her children like she loved her dining room table. The perfect geometry of right-angle placemats, every silver fork a matter more dire than her daughter's dreams of fairy dust. Children don't come simply from mother and father, an aching sigh were it so simple. We are born instead into a tangle far older, a web of causation that our ancestors wove, a Puritan's belt-buckle shoes laced too tightly for the babe to breathe. Love brought mother and father together, but human conditioning propagates like a current across the wire. It reaches out from black and white photos and slips its oily fingers into the hearts of all. A breath ageless, unexplained longing for more, thoughts of loving kindness. Spirit sleeps soundly until it awakens at last. Is it karma? Was it designed this way? The children don't know. What is certain is the truth that becomes clear when they are children no longer. There is a new world love. So part two of this poem is called A New World Love, and it speaks of this potential to love more and more deeply. It goes like this. Our fiction stories tell us tales of time travel and flying cars that soar from the rooftops of crystal-built skyscrapers, taller than the clouds and built on a ladder of progress that peoples of the past never conceived of ascending. We marvel at the new world that we one day might build, with gaping jaws and thirsting tongues. But what if we have always been wrong, and the new world exists not without, but within? There is a new way, a way that isn't written in your grandmother's scriptures, but is etched in the hearts of those courageous enough to write their own stories of love. The way he kneels at the altar of his lover's parted legs and conducts his worship there, not because the two are held as one, but because his next breath was meant to be the smell of her skin, the next sound, the cry of her rapture. The way she, in her mightiness, embraces herself as divine and moves through their lives as the being of light that was revealed the moment the veil lifted. The way the two work as one to open their hearts past lifetimes of conditioned shoulds and break the walls built by their forefathers, blazing their trail to the new. There is a long and heavy coat that was stitched in childhood homes and wrapped around tiny shoulders as a burden to bear our whole lives long. But the new world love invites this coat to fall and teaches the children how to fly at last. So those are the words of A New World Love. This is my way of being tired of speaking sweetly. And that's my story through conditioning into something else. I can't exactly say what. I'd like to share just one more poem with you from this section. It's a really robust section, and I'm really excited about the work that you'll find in The Time Has Come to Speak of Love here in Thirsty Camel. This last poem is called Thunder and Blazes, or A Night at the Circus. It goes like this. We know nothing of love, but in these suits of human armor, we are built and conditioned to pretend that we are certain. It is a trick so deceiving that we grow to believe it ourselves. So many of our potent thoughts of love are built on a scaffold of fear. We clamber atop it on timid tiptoes, mindlessly crooning our loudest love songs, and never looking to the ground below as we balance our lovers on both outstretched hands and keep a third securely piggybacked on our shoulders. If you think that this circus scene sounds a bit like a comedy, in a way, no doubt, you'd be right. But fear is still the master. So driven are we that we scour the globe, convinced that only another's lips are suitable to speak our own words. We drown in the thirst that is the source of this seeking, but all too often the dowsing rod finds us at a well that's already run dry. I tire mightily of these lofty poets' tales, grasping in the darkness for something pretty to tell you about love. I've no more gems to lay at your feet, for once my pockets were lined with precious stones and gold, but these years spent caught in the web of human striving have turned all of my riches to sand. If your hands are still stuffed half deep into your hot bag of peanuts, you might think that I've turned my back on love, but really, I'm just leaving the circus. And as the tent flap closes, with songs of Sousa marches still in my ear, I am left with the same ache in my heart that I had when I bought my ticket. I long to know something about love, and to finally be done with fear. I think the time has come for all of us to speak about the realness of love. And I'm really happy and honored to share my thoughts with you. And I do hold a hope that they'll be of some benefit to you along your own journey. My heart and my love to you. Bye-bye for now.